And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, I want to do like a different type. I guess it's kind of the same type of video, but it's a little different. I want to talk about the opportunity cost in Pokemon. And what do I mean by opportunity cost? Opportunity cost pretty much just means, you know, where is your money best spent in this hobby? Because I've talked about it before. Other people have talked about it. It's not really any sort of new thing, but all products, all cards, everything in this hobby, they're not all going to go up at the same rate. Some are going to go down, some are going to go up. But opportunity cost means where's your money best spent? Because when you look at this, like at the end of the day, what are we for the most part? I would say we're mainly just collectors. And I've talked about this on other lives, I've talked about this on other videos. If you're in this hobby, and you don't care about this hobby and you're not passionate about this hobby and you don't collect this hobby, when you start to look at like more the investability side, stuff like that, it's probably going to be a relatively uphill battle for you because if you don't have a true love for it. So I don't really think that is the case for anybody. I want to say everybody at their heart of hearts is a true collector. But when it comes to the opportunity cost, most people in this hobby have a relatively tight budget, or at least they don't have a budget of just infinite, meaning they could just spend as much money on this hobby as they possibly want. Doesn't matter. There's no way that they could possibly, like worry if their cards or their sealed product go up or down. Like for the most part, I would say everyone cares. And part of being a collector first is in order to grow your hobby, sometimes you have to sell things in this hobby. And I would say that selling stuff in this hobby is very acceptable in this hobby. It's very socially acceptable too. Like a lot of people, and not just selling stuff, but trading stuff. And so when it boils down to it, when you look at it from that side, it's that opportunity cost because you want whatever you're picking up to do the best in the long run. So because by that doing better in the long run, it's going to help you free up potential cash in the future or trade that for something you really want in your personal collection. But now when we talk about opportunity costs, there's probably a lot of different arguments there. You have your sealed collectors, you have your raw collectors, graded collectors, you have the people that like do only one of those things. They hate the other things, or maybe it's a combination of everything. And sure, when it comes to opportunity costs, when you really break down opportunity costs and you boil it down to just, the truest aspect of opportunity costs, I guess in theory, in this hobby, you can just buy whatever the one product was that has the best returns of all other products in this entire hobby. And yeah, I guess if you only ever bought that one product, you would have just crazy gains. But that's not really what this hobby is. When you break this hobby down, people kind of want a little bit of everything. They want multiple different sets. And if they are sealed product collectors, they want sealed product for multiple different sets, whether it's as something as simple as a sealed pack art collection, or if they want to maybe go a little bit higher and they're going to sealed blister route, or, maybe on the higher end, like that sealed booster box route. Like even in the sealed collector route, you have people that have different sealed collection goals, and probably a lot of them are financial restraints, like especially when you start going back in time far enough, some of these booster boxes could really start adding up and getting relatively expensive. And yes, expensive being that very relative term to what you think is expensive versus what other people are. But so when you start picking up stuff, when you start acquiring stuff, that opportunity cost is so important because Pokemon does one thing above all other things, and that's it gives you a lot of different options. It gives you a lot of different sets. I've talked about it on so many different videos. Pokemon is just a freight train running down the highway. There is no stopping Pokemon. Now, one thing they're extremely good at, and even recently, they're extremely good at pumping out new sets, new products. And not only are they pumping out new sets and new products, they're pumping out some extremely desirable products, whether it's the V-Star Universe for Japanese or the Pokemon Zenith for United States, or for, I should just say English, or, one of the most recent specialty products, the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection, a product that a lot of people really went after, a lot of people were super excited about. And Pokemon is also just pumping out amazing artworks and stuff. And it is funny to watch the hobby as a whole. You watch as the hobby progresses. People definitely always want whatever's the newest and the shiniest thing. And you don't have to go back that far in this hobby to see how glaringly obvious that is. You could only go back to just like when the hype really kicked off in like that October, November timeline of 2020. Think about the set that was released. Vivid Voltage was November 2020. Then, Vivid Voltage, Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, like those three sets. And I guess right before that was, Champion's Path. Those sets, I guess, kind of get looked down upon a little bit, or maybe frowned upon a little bit now. But at the time, living in the moment, those sets were extremely crazy. And you think about all the people that were just dying to open up Vivid Voltage because it introduced Amazing Rares and it had that hyper rare Chunkachu. People now, they see a pack of Vivid Voltage, they're going to pass. They're going to go to most likely whatever a newer set, whether that's Evolving Skies or Battle Styles or Astral Radiance or Lost or Silver Tempest or Lost Origins. Like probably Vivid Voltage is the one that they're going to want least, and especially the same thing as Battle Styles or even Chill and Rain. Let's never forget that Chill and Rain, before the third wave of Chill and Rain booster boxes after the second wave were still selling around 130. Those booster boxes at one point were selling for greater than 150. So when we talk about opportunity cost, the people that were, let's say, a Chill and Rain booster box or even a Battle Styles booster box, but we'll talk about Chill and Rain because I think Chill and Rain is a better product and I have better examples of it because I literally made a video on my channel titled "As I Walk Through the Valley of the $79.95 booster box, I Fear No Evil." And on different videos, I talked about Chill and Rain at, right after that first wave, second wave. I told everybody, do not buy Chill and Rain. I do not like these prices for that. I was waiting for, the reprint. Now, the reprint even caught me off guard because it was such a massive dump of so many different products at one time. The Battle Styles and the Chill and Rain and Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike, like they all dumped at once. So that how it was rolled out even surprised me, but I knew that price was going to come down, and it did. And it crashed below $80 from like a relatively big wholesale seller on eBay at that $79.95 price point. And yeah, if you shopped around, you got lucky and you had maybe some eBay bucks to use. There were some people picked them up as low as like 73 to 75. I told you guys when I picked up mine, I made a video saying $79.95. As I walk through the valley of $79.95 booster box, I fear no evil. And it was because of that made me go and meet, P Football P in person. Literally, I was so amazed by that price point that I went and drove there. And like now I've talked about him on so many different lives, and I know I'm still hoping to get him on a live, and I still think it will happen. But that made me literally drive to his warehouse and talk to him in person because I was so amazed at that price point of $79.95 because it was a crazy time. But that was a price point I said, I like that. I think it's a great entry point for a product like that. And now, luckily, history has proven that to be correct. Now, how is history going to... And if you go back and you watch that video where I talk about the $79.95 booster box, in that video, I use the exact words I said. My guess is by the end of 2022, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that booster box selling between 100 and 120. And I was dead on with that. But yeah, people will tell me I don't like modern product, but whatever. Like, ignore all of them. Like, the videos are out there. You could go watch them. If you don't believe, you could hear exactly what I said. Like, that was a great purchase price. And it was at that price that I purchased my first ever Chill and Rain booster box because I was so excited about it. Now, but that's what it boils down to, is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost in this hobby, and even a product like Chill and Rain, there was a lot of people made very poor opportunity costs. There's probably a lot of people out there picked up Chill and Rain booster boxes at 143.95 or whatever it is on the Pokemon Center website. How do I know that? Because Pokemon Center sold out online. I have no clue how many booster boxes Pokemon Center gets, but it's got to be an insane amount of booster boxes. And the fact that at one point they sold out at 143, there was a lot of people probably bought those and are still over their heads in a product like that. a product that, in my opinion, was one of the most timeable products we've ever seen in this hobby. And history has really showed that to be true. So I feel there's a lot of good opportunity cost there, when it comes to like a sealed product route and stuff. But now this is the thing, when you talk about opportunity cost, if you're not getting in at the low prices, and if you really let like FOMO take over, FOMO in this hobby could be detrimental. And it's the same thing for sealed product as it is for raw cards. It's the same thing as graded card prices. There are the glaring examples of, your opportunity cost, you ruined it. If you bought Vivid Voltage booster boxes at 220 to 280, you got destroyed. If you bought Brilliant or Battle Styles ETBs at, I think I saw some sales at like $65 for ETBs. I saw sales of 160 plus for booster boxes. If you bought Chill and Rain booster boxes from Pokemon Center at that 143, if you bought Champions Path booster boxes right at release, if you bought Shining Fates ETBs at 120, there were so many sales of Shining Fates ETBs at 120. Charizard UPCs, if you FOMO'd in and paid greater than 190, there was a lot of sales greater than 200 for Charizard UPCs for pre-orders. And I'm sure there's a lot of people paid those. Charizard UPC, a price that has now crashed below MSRP, and we're seeing them sell right at $100. So there's potentially people out there took a 50% loss in a Charizard UPC because they paid so much over. But then you can look at the graded card market. The graded card market is no different. There are the glaringly obvious examples, the ones that have probably been beat to death and people have talked about it on more lives than you could ever comprehend. Think about how many people bought, just first edition Jungle Pikachus and Jungle Eevees. Yes, those are cards that get mentioned on every single live by so many different people because they didn't make sense at the time, but it didn't matter because that's what the hobby was acquiring. The hobby was purchasing these cards, caused those prices to go up to like $1,300 for a first edition Jungle Pikachu graded in a 10. Keep in mind, Jungle is a 63 card set, which doesn't have that many commons in it. So your chances of pulling a Pikachu, if you had a booster box, is like 9 Pikachus you're going to pull per booster box. 8 to 9 Eevees you're going to pull. So between the two, you could potentially pull 18 of those cards in one booster box. We are seeing sales of those of greater than $1,000. People were screaming from the rooftops and from the mountaintops, these cards are not rare. These cards could really kill you, like price-wise. And you can make the argument that some of those cards have reached their all-time high, which is crazy to think about for the most of us. And I would say for at least me, definitely, I think a Pokemon is something that's going to continue to grow in the long term. If I didn't think that, I'd be liquidating everything I own, but I'm not liquidating. I'm still acquiring to this day. But even though I think that, even though I think Pokemon is going to continue to grow and it's going to have a great future, there's a potential that those first edition Jungle Pikachus and Eevees have reached their all-time high. Think about that. Think about that thought, that a card, which I just told you a hobby is going to continue to grow, that a card might have reached its all-time high. That is a scary thought to think about, meaning the people that bought that card may never recover from that. Never. But this goes back to what I said at the very beginning. At the end of the day, what are we? We're collectors, we're investors, but we love this hobby. So maybe there are a couple people out there, paid $1,300 for that first edition Pikachu and they're happy with their purchase. But the problem is it's going to hurt their opportunity cost long term. And me personally, what do? As we speak right now, at the time of recording this video, I have so many different plays out there that it's like almost sometimes hard to keep track of all. I look at some of my PSA returns coming back. I have some $18 bulks out there. I have some $15. And if you guys didn't know, this, I guess, is a little PSA, not PSA, the grading company, but PSA public service announcement for PSA, the grading company. Yes, stay with me. Yes, they did just open up the $15 TCG special again on December 1st. So if you don't know that, yeah, that is open again. A lot of people have already talked about this. I know I haven't made a lot of videos since then, but yeah, you can go submit $15. And I'm going to tell you right now, my submission that I have in the mail right now, like literally coming to me via FedEx. There's a lot of cards in there that were way over the 199 price point. So my recommendation to everybody out there, especially if you're worried about upcharges right now, assuming that, you have a little bit of faith in like the post office and PSA to not destroy your card. So if you send a pretty expensive card, like maybe just max declare it. But I've been extremely lucky as of recently with not getting upcharged. Now, the weird thing is I'll get upcharged at like a $30 tier. I don't know why that is, why they're upcharging me at like, so I'll get upcharged from like, if I submit at 30, I'll get upcharged to like the 50 or the $100 tier. But for whatever reason, recently, at that $15 bulk tier, I've been sending away a lot of cards and they just been coming back to me without upcharges. So this could be a very small sample size. I don't know why they're doing that, but like one of the cards I can think of that was in, I guess it wasn't a very recent one, but I've already showcased it on my channel, but I graded a base set Mewtwo in a PSA 10. That card is around $600 to $800 depending on sales. Those sales could, be pretty volatile because when you get on more of the high end for even base set in Gem Mint 10, yeah, there's probably a graded population of that card, like 530, but there's a lot of those cards are kind of locked away in people's collections. So the sales of them are actually a little bit more infrequent than maybe you think they are. There's still 529 of them out there graded in 10. So they still happen, but they're infrequent. So anyways, between $600 to $800, but that card did not get an upcharge and it was sent in bulk. So it was just something to think about, something to like keep in the back of your mind. But it goes back to the topic of this video is opportunity cost. One of the things I've been doing, and I'm going to continue to do, and I've been doing it a lot more recently, is for me, I see the greatest opportunity cost in more or less turning and burning a lot of stuff, especially things that I think that the market is overvaluing at this point. And one of the things I've talked about, and I had a video on this channel talking about liquidity versus illiquidity and how we are potentially moving into a relatively illiquid Pokemon hobby, not on that broad spectrum. Some people are going to hear that and be like, Pokemon's not illiquid. I agree with you on that, but there are aspects of this hobby that just a year ago were way more liquid than they are today. If you don't believe that, from a sealed product route, you can go look at how many booster boxes on TCG Player were sold of Rebel Clash. Go to the TCG Player, look at sold listings of Rebel Clash booster boxes without actually knowing the numbers, because I haven't looked at them recently, but I will go out on a limb and say it's less than 20. So that means less than one a day is selling. Now, go back 2 years ago, how many of those booster boxes were selling per day? So that is a product that has gone relatively illiquid. And then for graded cards, for vintage cards, there's a lot of WotC cards that we're starting to see sales really slow down for, become relatively illiquid, which rewind 2 years ago at the same time that Rebel Clash was out there during the height of heights and the peak of peaks and the manias of manias, anything graded in a slab, it didn't matter what it was. Could have been a PSA 4, didn't matter. Just about as liquid as a product that you could have with just as fast as you push it out there, especially if you were, low priced on eBay, those things were moving super liquid. But the hobby has changed a little bit though. It's not as liquid as it once was. But with that said, right now, today, there's still a ton of products, especially a ton of cards that are extremely liquid, cards that have that are moving right now, especially like a lot of these character rare cards, especially a lot of these modern promos. Some of this stuff is still super liquid. And what does that mean? So when it comes to opportunity cost, if this hobby is illiquid in some places, but liquid in other places, all you have to do is you have to shift. You have to constantly shift your plays. I promise you, my plays today are drastically different than they were a year ago. A year ago, they were drastically different than they were 3 years before that. And you keep going back far enough, your plays have to change. So when the hobby becomes illiquid in some places and liquid in others, all you have to do is constantly change and adapt. And sure, on one video, that's the scary thing on, especially on the YouTube sphere, right? Like you can make a video talking about one card or one product. There is probably a lot of good plays for one card or one product at a single point in time. But fast forward to a little while later, that card, the play changes so drastically. So it's almost, what is like a super modern play I was doing in 2020? I'll give you an example. I got one. Perfect. End of 2020. The dumbest product ever is the theme decks from Vivid Voltage. Had 2 Charizards in it, had 1 non-holo Charizard in it, and then it has the Cosmos holo that's literally like on the front of that card. That card in a PSA 10 was selling for greater than like $80. In a CGC 9, it was selling for like $29.99. In a PSA 9, it was selling for like $49. That was a Vivid Voltage theme deck was $12.99. I bet you if you went on to freaking Pokemon Center right now, those Vivid Voltage theme decks are still up there. Those Charizard Vivid Voltage theme decks for $12.99. That was an easy play. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not still cracking open Vivid Voltage theme decks to grade the Charizard with the Cosmos Holo and the 1 non-holo Charizard rare in there. I'm not. But you can see how many people were doing it. You could go look at the pop reports of that card and it's in the thousands. But that's the thing. Like, the opportunity cost was there for a product then. You know what? I don't even know. Maybe there's still like meat on the bone if you were to do that play today, but I'm sure that profit margin would I'm sure that card now in a PSA 10 is probably selling for like $19. So after $15 grading, $12.99 or $15, so $30 to grade both cards plus $12.99, you would be all in for that for like 40, $50. Not worth it. So like the profit margin for something like that has evaporated. But that is just a super modern, super easy play. But it wasn't like I was acquiring as many of these things as I possibly could. It was just like I would crack open every time I would see them. I just pick them up, crack them open, send them away. The only problem was PSA shut down like pretty quick after, like what was it, February of 2021, PSA shut down. So a lot of those cards ended up getting sent to CGC. Could not get 10s on them. You just couldn't. You could get 9s, but still you're selling those cards for $29.99, $30 for the Cosmos, a little bit more actually. But that was just like a little play. But that's the thing. In this hobby, there's always little teeny plays, And yeah, did I spend too much time talking about a $12.99 product? Yes, definitely probably spent way too much time. But there's always like these little plays. Now, that's where it comes down to opportunity cost. Okay. And so opportunity cost, where is your money best spent? You could have had 2 people out there. One of them bought that theme deck as a sealed product play. They spent $12.99 for it. Fast forward 2 years later, they could buy that same theme deck on Pokemon Center right now for $12.99. The price for that never changed. But then you have the other person who had the opportunity cost who bought that, cracked it open, literally only sent 2 cards away. I think that thing had like, is it like a quick ball in there? It wasn't even a good, like, it didn't even have great trainers that you could like sell out. Pretty much all the rest of that was more or less bulk. So like 3 cents a card at the time. So there was no value with the exception of those 2 Charizards. Luckily, the non-holo one was relatively easy to grade. The Cosmos was okay. But you have the other guy who had the opportunity cost by cracking open that product, graded those. Those cards have already came back. That card has already been sent out. And that money from that is constantly moving. And that money might have now, by this point in time, has moved into 5 to 6 other plays. So you have the one guy still sitting on that theme deck, paid $12.99, could go on Pokemon Center today and, buy it for $12.99. You have the other guy use the opportunity cost of his money in that product and probably flipped it a few times. And, from that very initial grading, well over double his money, probably like 5x his money. And then as long as he's doing, and he might have moved that money into different plays and constantly just turning and burning that money. So that is where the opportunity cost in this hobby is so important. Let's see. So I'm just looking down at the chat real quick. Catch 'em all collectible said graders almost surely wouldn't be tasked with upcharges. You think it would be like PSA auction price realizes, but it clearly doesn't. Yeah, I don't know how PSA gets their like upcharges. I've seen PSA have some submissions where they'll upcharge the cards at the beginning of the submission and at the end of the submission for whatever, most people will submit like one line, like let's say they're Jungle Pikachu. Fuck it, we've already mentioned Jungle Pikachu enough. They'll have a line of like 5 Jungle Pikachus, and then for whatever reason, at the bottom of the submission, they'll have accidentally added another Jungle Pikachu, and you'll have the 5 at the top get upcharged, but whatever reason, the one at the bottom doesn't, even though sometimes it's the exact same grade. But yeah, I have no clue where PSA's upcharges come from. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, but to go back to the topic of this video is that opportunity cost. I talked about Chill and Rain earlier this video. Even at $79.95, I thought that was a good entry point, and I put a decent amount of money into Chill and Rain, not like a crazy amount, but like close to 2,000. And that money and all that play has done well for me. Percentage wise, it's a nice gain for me. It's not bad. Like nobody's going to look down on that. I think it was a very clear, very obvious play at the time. It's still in a very dangerous timeline where me personally, my personal opinion, Chill and Rain's not getting a reprint. That's what I personally believe. That's what my play is showing. It's showing that I still don't believe that's going to get reprinted. But I still put myself in a little bit of risk that it might get reprinted. And if that happens, forget about it. Price of that's going to crash down again, and those prices could stay in the dumps forever. I'm telling you, I don't personally think that's going to happen, but to say that's not a possibility of all things that have ever existed in the history of the human timeline from now until forever, that a product you only expect to get reprinted. If you don't believe me, go talk to a lot of storefronts that had, roaring skies. It's possible. Unified Minds, right before Unified Minds, or not, excuse me, not Unified Minds, Ultra Prism, right before Ultra Prism was about to go out of rotation, like a month or two before it was about to go out of rotation, Ultra Prism got a reprint. Those booster boxes crashed down in price. Like, yes, that booster box probably now is retraced pretty nice. It's probably like between $300 and $400. Like that's a nice price, but at the time it sucked. Now, if that happened to Chill and Rain, again, I don't think it's going to happen. But now there's probably a lot of opportunity cost in there with the $2,000 worth of Chill and Rain booster boxes that I acquired. It's actually not even that much. It was only 3 cases, but even with that, there's probably a lot of money. Probably a lot of opportunity cost there with that money that I lost out on, because I could tell you there was a lot of plays since I picked up those booster boxes. If I moved my money into other things, I would have did way better. So it boils back down to opportunity costs. But like I said earlier, you're never going to be able to identify the winning play 100% of the time. And we always talk about our wins. We never talk about our losses. There are losses out there, or maybe, I would say when you're doing more the flipping route, especially when you're going for the graded route. Yeah. If you don't hit a 10, there's a chance you lose money. Depends on the card, right? People are like, what do you think about PSA 9s? What do you think about PSA 8s? It's like, I don't know. PSA 8 Trophy Kangaskhan, great card. Great card. PSA 8 Unlimited Jungle Pikachu. We're on the Unlimited Jungle, or on the Pikachu train, but Unlimited Jungle Pikachu in a PSA 8. Don't like it, Trophy Kangaskhan, I like it in an 8. Unlimited Pikachu from Jungle, I don't like it in an 8. Like, people will ask like super broad, super subjective questions, and it's like, what card? Just name a card. I'll tell you if I like the card in an 8. But with that said, even with grading, like if you're not familiar with grading standards, if you're not, and you misgrade your card, and especially if you miss something super apparent, or maybe not even super apparent, but something that really deducts your grade, and let's say you're thinking you get in a 10, you're like, oh, I looked at the edges, I looked at the centering, I looked at the corners, and everything was perfect. This is going to get a 10, but you left out that number 4, which was the surface, and that thing has like a little binder ding in it. PSA they don't care. That card's getting a 6. So even though you have perfect corners, edges, and centering, because that surface had that little ding, you get a 6. The price difference between what you thought that card was going to sell at for a PSA 10 versus what it's going to sell for in a 6 is going to be drastically less. So yeah, opportunity cost there could be pretty dangerous too. And we've all done it. I super recently got a return back, and I had one of my cards. I maybe didn't think it was going to get a 10, but I thought it was going to get like, 9, 10 capability, and it got a 6. And I had to look at the surface of it. This was a card that I pulled out of a binder purchase I made, and it had a little teeny dirt spot on it. We all make mistakes. Like, that card graded a 6 because it had a little bit of surface issue that I just didn't look over that card enough. And that's the problem too, is sometimes everyone makes mistakes, and that comes down to opportunity cost. So one of the things about like opportunity cost in Pokemon is you got to spend a little bit of time and, find out the plays that work and best for you. And one of the things that I personally would give my recommendation for is maybe not to spread yourself out too things, but don't like narrow yourself too thin too. Don't you ever hear that saying, like, don't have too many eggs in one basket? Don't have too many eggs in one basket. Sometimes it's nice to spread out. I think a lot of people talk about things as recently as like Charizard UPCs. A lot of people got, pretty beat up on Charizard UPCs for grading because fresh out of box, they weren't really great condition. I guess I did get relatively lucky, but even that, I made a decent mistake. I sent all my 10 candidates out at the $100 tier, and my $100 tier opposed to my 50 grading tier, like the timeline between getting my 100 back and my 50 was meaningless. Like, we're talking like a few days difference, like nothing. So by me sending out all my 10 candidates, yes, I did get extremely lucky that my pre-grading was at least good enough on my Charizard UPC promos that I got all 10s. So I didn't get beat up on those even at $100 a piece for grading. But the problem is if I sent those, because there was 14 of them sent away at a 10, if I decided to send all those at the 50, I would have still got my 7 10s I got at my 50 plus the 14 on top of that. So there's 6 at 50 and 14 at the 100. So I would have had 20 PSA 10s that I would have paid $50 grading for instead of paying 14 of those at 100. By paying that extra $50 per card, that's $700 that I left on the table for a play, which I thought was pretty obvious. But $700, there's a lot of opportunity cost in $700, which is just, that's lost. All that goes to is PSA. PSA makes out on that card. They did good. We didn't do good. So there is definitely like good plays and bad plays and opportunity costs, but don't ever like have all your money in one play. Some of the people I was listening to with like the Charizard UPC plays who maybe misgraded, sent some of their like 9 candidates, they got unlucky, express grading them at 100, or how quickly the market really went down for their $50 grading. They more or less probably like at 50 hitting 9s, you're more or less breaking even for the card. But the problem was, assuming you were able to get on the market extremely fast, because that was a card we talked about, was the ultimate race to the bottom. As fast as you could possibly get to the bottom, that card was going to go to the bottom, and it did. But the problem is there could have been a lot of lost money there, because right at release, those cards raw were selling for like $35 a piece at raw. That was for like a day or two. That's how it raw. That was for like a day or two. That's how, and now those cards are probably raw you could probably pick them up at $10. So then even the people that don't grade, the people that are, keep cards raw, or they're just binder collectors, they picked up their Charizard UPC, they had their 3 cards. There was potentially like more or less the value of the box right there at $35 each for raw. They decide to hold on to them, and now their raw cards are worth like $10. So there's this opportunity cost, and it's constantly moving, right? And like I talked about, you have to just constantly be changing like your plays, or recognizing markets, understanding products, understanding like when we talk about like what is the fundamentals of a product. And when we talk about fundamentals, some of the things we talk about is rarity and scarcity. And somebody will, they'll talk about something like super modern, and they'll talk about like the Moonbryon. You know how many people out there, like even in this chat alone, we're doing Moonbreon plays. People that don't like modern were buying that card raw because at the time the PSA 10 prices versus the raw prices were like sometimes 2 to 3x. Yes, that might sound crazy. For a while, Moonbreons were selling for like $250 raw, and PSA 10s were selling between $600 to $700. So people were doing that play, paying the 250, express grade them at 100. They were into those for 350. And if they were hitting nines, they were like breaking even, sometimes still making money. And if they hit at the 10, double their money super easy. There's people rinsing and repeating that forever. And with a card that has literally an 80% gem mint rate, that means if you did that 10 times, in theory, just by looking at the pop report, you're going to hit a 10, 8 out of 10 of those times. So the nines become a wash, and think of how much money all those people made. But now that was a card that continued to go up until it reached, like, I want to say the high the Moonbreon ever hit was like $1,500, and now we're seeing it retrace kind of ironically back down to around that $600 to $700 to $800 price range for the 10, that a lot of people that were doing those real early plays, picking those cards up at like 250 raw, selling them at the 800. We're right back to that. Now, that's a thing too. There's an opportunity cost in that. But the problem was there's always when we talk about opportunity costs, there's always two people in every single scenario. There's always the buyer, and there's always the seller. On every end of those like bad deals, or I guess it's not a bad deal, but there was a lot of sellers. But then there's buyers. There's a lot of those buyers out there that bought the Moonbreon for $1,500 and probably thought that card was going to continuing its price trajectory and was going to go greater than $2,000. Listen, me personally, I'm not a buyer of the Moonbreon. I'm not. I loved watching it. There are a lot of people in the chat. If Basic Trainer's in the chat right now, Basic Trainer became obsessed with that card because it was fascinating to watch. It was freaking awesome. There's no denying. Like, modern card, vintage card, it doesn't matter what it was. It was an awesome time in this hobby. It was an awesome like case study. And it's probably a card we will talk about or refer to for the next 10 to 15 years. When we talk about different timelines, when we talk about sun and moon, when we talk about price swings, when we talk about stuff like that, that will be a card that will probably be brought up for a long time. But there's a buyer of that card at 1,500. The same way that there was, and that's a raw modern route. The same way that there was a buyer of Vivid Voltage at 220 booster box. The same way there was a buyer of Battle Styles booster box at 160. The same way there was somebody who bought Chill and Rain from Pokemon Center at 144. There's always like the buyer of all these bad deals. You know, you think about like the Blueback Charizard, like Top Sun card. I forget what that card sold for. It was like, man, I can't even tell you. It was like hundreds of thousands of dollars. That card, everyone that knew what that card was said that card's not rare. I mean, Rusty TCA Gaming owns that card. Like a lot of people own that card. Everyone, you know, like that's when you had people came into the hobby, sports cards investors and stuff like that, who started looking at rookie cards. And I guess if you want to say like, what is the rookie card of Charizard? Like, at least that's, I know it sounds stupid even saying it out loud, but like, trust me, these were real conversations people were having with like, you know, Top Sun Charizard's calling it the rookie card of Pokemon, when we all know that's just like, no, you guys are just stupid. And this card, watch this card crash and burn. And it did. But even at the time, it was fantastic to watch. It was fascinating. Like we knew we were in a crazy bubble for that card. That card made no sense to everyone in the know, but anybody who wasn't in the know looked at that card and looked at the year of it and said, okay, base set came out in English in 99. It came out in Japan in 99, 98 timeline. This card has a 96 date on it. Oh, this is the rookie card. Oh, this is selling for hundreds of $1,000s. Oh, this must make sense. And now that card has retraced, but at the end of the day, there was a buyer of that card. There's somebody who bought that card. Now, I don't even know if that card was actually manipulated. It might have been. That might have been just traded in between friends. And that card is just a super heavily manipulated card. And at the end of the day, even by reselling that card, they still did very well for themselves. But It's just, it all comes back down to opportunity cost. Where is your money best spent in this hobby? And there is no right or wrong answer, especially when I told you I recommend doing a lot of different plays at all times. But the only way you're going to like utilize opportunity costs and do what's best for you is you gotta like really study this market. And sometimes you're going to get lucky, sometimes you're not. You know, I'll give you an example. Evolving Skies. I have never one time in this hobby, and maybe the day will come, but I've never one time heard anybody say Evolving Skies was a bad set. Never heard anybody say that. That booster box has gone up a ton of money, a ton in value. We've seen multiple waves of that booster box. Even as recently as our most recent reprint, you know, we only saw booster boxes retrace down to like 130 were some of the lowest prices I saw. Because this is the thing. We speculated, we said, well, first of all, everybody was speculating on Evolving Skies reprints way before the reprint was announced. I'll give you a perfect example. Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom on his channel literally was so confident in Evolving Skies booster boxes being reprinted that he had like Evolving Skies booster box giveaways every single week until that booster box was reprinted. And I don't know the exact number, but it was like 20 weeks before it eventually got the reprint. But that's how confident he was. Like he was screaming it from the mountaintops that was going to get a reprint, and it did. And a lot of people got, you know, booster boxes. But the wave, like the reprint wasn't large enough to crush the value of that. And because that is, you know, still a popular set, arguably the most popular set of Sword and Shield, arguably some people say the best, at least when you look at the secret rares of that set, when you look at all the evolutions. I'm still super biased. I like Brilliant Stars better. Semantics, screw it. Sue me. I don't care. It's just semantics. I don't freaking care what you think is the best set of Sun and Moon. Evolving Skies is like my number 2. So be it. Like some people get so mad when you don't say Evolving Skies is your number 1. Like I like Brilliant Stars. Brilliant Stars is still doing fantastic. Like it's just like this weird thing. But now you run into a lot of people ask questions about Evolving Skies. Still to this day, I see it, or I hear it, or I read it on other people's chats. People say, should I buy booster boxes of Evolving Skies? I always kind of read it twice because I read it like, oh my God, this is now a product that is not new, is not being slept on by anybody. You had so many opportunities to pick this product up in the past. Why did you never pick it up from any time until that booster box reached a price of like $250? Now you're starting to ask the question, should I buy this booster box? That booster box is probably still has a relatively strong likelihood of being reprinted. Me personally, I would say it's going to get reprinted. But I'm also willing to do the million different arguments that say a booster box like that is not going to get reprinted, because there's still a lot. That booster box is starting to get kind of old. Not really, but that was like the last set reprinted. Does it make sense for Pokemon to just reprint it again? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of people say Brilliant Stars is probably going to get a reprint. Maybe, maybe not. A lot of people just say Pokemon's going to say screw Sword and Shield block, where we got Pokemon Zenith coming out, and then we're straight into Scarlet and Violet, and we're just not looking at these old sets. Those are all fair arguments. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I don't work for Pokemon Company. I love to speculate. Speculating's fun, but I don't know. No one knows. Maybe they say, screw it. We hate everyone. We're reprinting Sword and Shield base. I think the likelihood of that is 0, but screw it. Pokemon can do whatever they want. So, but that's what we do. We speculate. But where's the opportunity cost in a $250 booster box for me? That booster box might have fantastic returns. It might be very reminiscent of what we've seen happen from like Team Up or Cosmic Eclipse. Maybe. Can't tell you. Don't know. But all I can tell you is I don't want my starting point for a product like that to be at 250, especially when it's not like you just entered this hobby. Like you've been around now. You had your opportunities. But now this is where it comes to that opportunity cost. You need to realize when different products are at good price points. You know, the cheapest we ever saw Evolving Skies get down to was $95, because that was the strongest set during that. Remember when I talked about that huge dump we had at the time when it was, Fusion Strike, Chill and Rain, Battle Styles, Evolving Skies all hit distributors at one time. Everything got pulled down. The whole market kind of got pulled down because of that dump, at least when it came to sale product route. $95 was the lowest that booster box really made it to. I have screenshots of it on my phone from eBay. Like but this is at the same time that the other products were sitting below 80. Now it comes back to this opportunity cost and just kind of recognizing. And I can't tell you like product for product, set by set, when's the lowest of every product going to be? I don't know. That's where you're going to have to like take a little leap of faith or understand the market. Like there's a lot of Japanese products right now that people are really kind of going crazy about. And forget the name of the product. I can't even think of it. What's a Japanese product that's just gone up to like $400? And one of my most recent live, people were asking me about that. And they were saying, PK, what do you think about like that Japanese $400 product? The crazy thing is I had no clue what anybody was talking about because they were talking about secondary market prices. Listen, if you guys want to start doing the Japanese route, fine, go do it. What is it? The ultra premium collection product or whatever it's called. If you want to do that, go for it. Go do Japanese exclusive products, but don't start looking at these products when they hit $400 to $500 on the secondary market. Get yourself a Tenzo account. Figure out how or Amazon Japan works or Pokemon Center Japan. Start figuring out this. If you want to be a Japanese collector, whatever, fine, do it. But don't just do it on a secondary market. Don't say you're investing in it. You spend enough time watching Pokemon, listening to content like this. Trust me, you're still listening to this podcast, or I guess not really podcast, but this live after all this time, and you don't have enough time to go and figure out how to get a Tenzo account, how to get a Japanese address in the end of 2022, if that's still something that you feel is a barrier of entry because you've literally just not went to the website and figured it out. I want to say like Dan Catch'em All Collectibles, I think made a video literally walking people through how to do that, how to set up a Japanese address, how to start getting product from Japan. If you want to do that, do it. Don't ask me what I think about, $100 products that now that they're being released onto the English market and they're selling to $400 to $500. Don't ask me about those. My answer to you is going to be, you have your buying opportunities. If you missed it, why did you not care about it then? Why do you care about some of this stuff, today? But that's the thing too. There's opportunity costs, whether it's sealed product, but then you could go the raw route. There's a lot of, opportunity cost in raw cards. Some people will look at raw cards and they'll go right to freaking grading, right? A lot of cards raw, if you misgrade your card, you're going to lose money. If you do not understand condition, you get a 7, you get an 8, and you thought it was going to get a 9 or 10, you might lose money when you look at that card, how it sells in a raw price versus a graded price. That can be a huge opportunity loss for you. So now what is your money doing? It's stagnant. It's stale. When it comes to opportunity cost in this hobby, what I think it just comes to, and you'll hear people in this hobby say, there's a lot of product is just dead money. Dead money means products that are not selling, are not making you any money. There's a lot of examples like that. Even products that have done fantastic, let's say we could think of like, what's the Evolutions, I guess, is an expensive booster box. Team Up didn't really have a big window, but Evolutions did. Evolutions $700 booster box. Pick that booster box up at some points for like $85, $90. All day you could pick those up. That is a product that your money was dead for 4 years. So what's the opportunity cost in a product that in a 4-year timeline? Now, you look at a product like that today, yeah, you have great gains. Now, when you look at that product in 2019, a product has no gains to it. That means your money has been stagnant. And you can make the argument for some people, their money might have lost money. If you picked up an Evolutions booster box at 110, and that booster box was selling at 85, and there's a lot of lost money there. That means your money was not just stagnant, it was in the negative. So the question is, well, was there any opportunity cost? What's the opportunity cost for a product that was stagnant for 4 years and missed out on a lot of plays? Could have been a lot of people who sold booster boxes or cases and flipped that money 10 times over and took whatever little gains they could get out of a product. Or some people maybe just washed their hands of a product like that, broke even, and just continued to move that money. That's where opportunity costs could get like super confusing too. We don't know what's going to be the winner every time. We could speculate, we can guess. I think we love to do that. It's a lot harder than some people think it is, because if it wasn't, then every single person in this chat would have first edition booster boxes cases, and every single WotC box when these things were selling for a couple $100, and everybody would have Skyridge sale boxes, and everybody would have Flashfire, everybody would have Phantom Forces, or everybody would have XY base, or for some of the more recent sets, even everybody would have a team up box. You'd be amazed at how many people don't own a team up box. You'd be amazed at how many people don't own a Cosmic Eclipse box, or even like Unbroken Bonds or Unified Minds. Those are the last sets of Sun and Moon base. You'd be amazed at how many people don't own like a single box of those. You would not be amazed at how many people do own a booster box of Evolutions, though. That is probably a much higher number than actually the Sun and Moon boxes I just listed. But it all comes down to opportunity cost. And you're going to have to decide what works best for you. You're going to have to decide what kind of gains make you happy. A lot of the people I've talked to in this hobby, I've asked them, I said, when you make a play in a card, what are you looking at for returns? A lot of people say they look for like 1 to 2x returns on their flips. It takes a long time to make 1 to 2x return on some things in this hobby. So it's that hit or miss thing. There are plays to be made everywhere, but there's also a lot of places to lose money, even today in this hobby. I would say that there are a lot of products that even today in this market are in fact overvalued. Moonbreon was a perfect example. The fact that we were all looking at that wide-eyed like little kids, we couldn't figure out. $1,500 seemed overvalued. $1,000 seemed overvalued. $800, $600, but it doesn't change the fact that even when I thought that card was overvalued at like $800 and it creeped up to $1,500, eggs on my face, like, you look stupid. You're like, well, you thought that card was overvalued at 800, could have doubled your money. Well, now where's that card sitting? Now this is the thing. It's like, okay, do I think a card like that is worthless? No, that card is, I just told you, that is a card we're going to be talking about for the next decade and a half. What is the bottom for a card like that? No clue. I have no clue. Like, what is the true value of a card like that? No clue. You want to know why? Because the market's going to determine what is the bottom of that card. Is the market strong enough to bring that card back up to 1,500 to 2,000? Probably not. Is the market weak enough to pull that card down to $100 to $200? No, probably not. That card's going to settle out somewhere, and I don't know where it's going to settle. It might be at a low today in a 10. Hell if I know. It might settle out at $1,000, might settle out at 500, 400. I don't know. I don't know, because the market will dictate that. I will not dictate the value of that card. But that's the thing. When I look at my opportunity costs, when I look at where do I want my money, that's not a card. Now, when I just told you, there's a lot of people who were doing that play at 250, grading that card and flipping it on the market, though, who recognized it, made fantastic plays. Good for them. They said that their opportunity cost in a card like that was worth it. Now, let's compare just that Moonbreon raw at $250, grading it, getting a 10, selling it for $700, opposed to the person that bought that booster box at 95. It's currently selling between like $250 and $300. The person that the gains that were made from that booster box buying at 95, sitting at 250 today, like on paper, it's a lot, but realized gains are zero, because the realized gains are zero because that box hasn't been sold yet. But that Moonbryon, when they bought that grade and they bought it, graded it, flipped it, when you grade a Moonbryon, you're probably express grading at like $50 to $100. Those people doing those real early $250 plays that I talked about, like real early on, how many times they probably like turned over that money? That money is way more like than 2x for them by this point, assuming that they were doing similar plays. So where's the opportunity cost in that? And you're talking about literally the best sealed product play in modern Pokemon is Evolving Skies. 95 to like 250 to 300. That is the best modern play for a sealed booster box. You got the same person took a card, and how long does it take? Let's just think, how long did that play take? Buy that card at 250, it gets mailed to you. Let's just say 5-day ship in. You get it. You make a packing slip for PSA. It's out there the next day, 6 days, $50 grading probably was go on a high 2 to 3 weeks, $100, even less, a week. So you're looking at some people held on to that card for like a month, where the person that bought, the Evolving Skies booster box bought it at 95 and they're holding on to it for like a year, but like that's the thing too. You could have the same person bought that card and gets a super low grade and maybe they lose out on a bunch of money, like that's the thing. Opportunity costs are there, but you can't do these plays on every single card. You just can't. There are plays that I'm doing right now that are probably going to kill the market on some stuff. I mean that. And I was talking about one of those cards to somebody relatively recently, and they were saying, how many cards did you send away? I told them how many cards I was sending away. But I ended it with a caveat of the only reason I didn't send away every single card of a certain card that I'm grading is because I don't even know how much the hobby is going to absorb. That's the thing too about this hobby. When you talk about opportunity costs and stuff, things are only worth money if people are going to buy them at the end of the day. Just because you think something is going to be worth more money, if the rest of the hobby doesn't agree with you, or you do some speculation and that speculation doesn't play out, you're going to be left literally holding the bag. Like, yeah, people hate when people say the word holding the bag, but at the end of the day, like, you could be holding the bag. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to go now, scroll up to the top of the chat because I am at the point in the chat where I'm off my soapbox. But no, I think opportunity cost in Pokemon is a good conversation. I think it's a valuable conversation. I would say, there's some things in the hobby, like the most passive thing you could possibly do in the hobby is some of my most recent plays I did, just buying modern promos, sending them, putting them in, literally opening up the cellophane pack, placing that card in a penny sleeve, placing that card into a top loader, placing that top loader then into a flat rate UPS box and shipping out the next day, getting that card back in a slab and selling it. It's probably literally the most passive thing you can do in the hobby, opposed to getting something and storing it, I guess. I don't know. Mert says, hey, what's up, Mertz? Good to see you, Mertz. Real quick, too, if you guys haven't had a chance, Pokemon Classics recently put out a video, just highlights of the Denver Collecticon. Just a fantastic time. In the link of this, or in the description of this video right now, is a link to Pokemon Classics' most recent video. I recommend you guys clicking on that. His editing is definitely like some of the most top-notch editing we have in the Pokemon sphere, especially for somebody that does all the editing himself. Great video. Can't say enough about Matt Pokemon Classics. Great dude. Great all-around person. Real, like, he's a net positive for this hobby. Let's see. John Doe said, thoroughly enjoying the community. John, just want you to know that we thoroughly enjoy you too, man. You're a good man. So Matthew said the opportunity cost of new product is you're either first or last, no in between. Yeah. Like, this is the thing about opportunity cost too. Like, when it comes, so you have like English reprints are reprints, it's the R word. That is going to be your biggest like combatants when it comes to modern Pokemon. We can name it. There's so many products were destroyed because of reprints. But you can make the same argument that if a product never got a reprint, maybe prices never would have got destroyed. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, what's Vivid Voltage ETBs? Good example. Vivid Voltage ETBs were selling for greater than $100. If Vivid Voltage ETBs, that is not a set, that is more just a product. But if that product never got reprinted, probably pretty unlikely that Vivid Voltage ETBs ever retrace below $100. But that's not what happened. Vivid Voltage ETBs did get a reprint, and we saw those things get printed into oblivion. The same thing with even Darkness Ablaze ETBs. Those were both just, those reprints came out at the exact same time. I think I saw some Darkness Ablaze ETB selling for like 123 or something, and then Vivid Voltage ETBs at 100. Assuming you bought both of those, you're into those for $230, and both those you could probably pick up both those ETBs right now shipped to your door for combined $50. So there's some people out there that are potentially down $80 on those two products because, like we said, the only reason we know that that product was selling for 123 is because it had sales at 123. The only reason we know Vivid Voltage ETBs were worth $100 is because it had sales at $100. And I'm going to go on a limb and say that whoever was buying a Vivid Voltage ETB at $100 was doing it as a sealed product play. They weren't doing it to open 8 packs of Vivid Voltage. So the opportunity cost in that, like that R word, the reprint word, destroyed people. Now, and I also said at the same time, if that ETB never got reprinted, probably would have done pretty well for people. So that opportunity cost is there too. And then same thing with Japanese Pokemon. So many people said about Japanese Pokemon time after time after time, Japanese sets do not get reprinted. And what did 2021 do? 2021, for everybody who said, and especially like early 2022, everybody who said Japanese sets do not get reprinted, the Japanese Pokemon company told everybody, hold my beer, watch what I can do. And they reprinted the crap out of Japanese products. Listen, what did Japanese products do? They retrace real hard. A lot of them hit beautiful entry points. I know some people in this hobby were buying like hundreds, not just, I was going to say like a case, but like hundreds of these Japanese booster boxes when prices hit low enough. And then the market was able to recover. A lot of those things like went back up. But it all comes down to opportunity costs. Like you could have now if you bought, some Japanese specialty set for 120 and then it retraced down to $60, and a year later it's now gone back to 100 to 120. Where's your opportunity cost there? Your opportunity cost, your money was stagnant now for like a year, where you have the people that came in and scooped up as many as they could at $60. Like those guys are sitting pretty. It's all about that opportunity cost too, Now, is there something to keep in mind? Let's see. John Doe said, people paying high brilliant star booster box prices now on TCG Player, why they stayed readily available for retail on Pokemon Center. John, that's a good comment, and I've never really understand that. Like, we kind of talk about it, like there is always been like this little bit of like price arbitrage that goes on this hobby. And we've always said like, well, maybe that's because like this is a more niche website, or maybe, like shout out the cool trainer Ryan out there, but like Hills Wholesale Gaming, like you go on to Hills website, you literally go back in time to 1990, and some people wouldn't hate that because it's super old school. Like you're going to pay shipping. There's no free shipping on Hills, but it looks like a website that's straight out of like dial-up AOL connection days. But yeah, booster boxes there always relatively cheap into comparison to like a TCG Player. I think so like that was always the argument there, where all the niche websites, people just don't go deep enough to those rabbit holes. But then you talk like TCG Player, sometimes the prices are more expensive than Pokemon Center. Pokemon Center obviously having free shipping for anything over $20. So if you're buying a booster box, it is weird. I'll agree. I don't have an answer for that. I've never had an answer for that. I always said it was the buyer, but I don't know. I'm not sure why there is like that price arbitrage that goes on. Connor says, I really wonder how many people, he said, I really wonder how many are printed in comparison to the Wizard of the Coast era, because we all know base set, Jungle Fossil were printed to oblivion, but I really wonder the comparison as to the print runs now. Well, that is a hard question, like, unlimited base set, 8 print runs. 8 print runs is a lot. Yeah. We talk about, fourth print. We even know, like the 99 2000, but it's not really the fourth print. That's like the English version, but there was like 8 print runs of base set. When you look at print run, and there are some old photos that exist out there of pallets of base set booster boxes that fill up like an airplane hangar. There's a ton of that stuff. So when you talk about print runs, it's hard to say, especially with some of this modern stuff. We've seen recent videos where they showing the print-in facilities and their giant warehouse stacked with pallets. Now, we don't know what's on those pallets, but Pokemon has gone out there and said, we've printed 9 billion cards. And then you get into the semantics of, well, what are those 9 billion cards? Are those 9 billion cards the hits? What are they? Are we talking energy cards? We don't know. But yeah, in comparisons, I would say that the print runs are definitely greater than they were for some of the low print stuff, like late WotC stuff, early Nintendo stuff. I wouldn't have to go out too far on a limb and say that, some of these more recent print runs were way greater than anything we saw there. But then even like within timelines, you can say, oh, well, this set seems to be relatively scarce. Like, what's the print run look like from like a team up opposed to Evolving Skies, or a team up to a Battle Styles or Chillin' Reign? And that's a set that's only like separated by like a couple years. So it's hard to say. So Phil said, thoughts on Crown Zenith Pokemon Center ETB pre-orders? Thoughts? I got my 4. That's all I could say about that. Like, I like Pokemon Center ETBs. I always do a pre-order of 4, and I've done that ever since they allowed it. So I've done 4 ever since Celebrations, because Celebrations, I believe, was the first ETB they allowed you the pre-order up to 4. And when Celebrations was shipped to me and it came in a sealed box with like the Pokemon Center label on and stuff, like they stick your shipping label over, but you have to peel it off. But like it has a stop tape on. And yes, shout out to Rattle, shout out to Baseball Card Exchange and all that, and having the stop tape on your booster box. But either way, I know it's stupid. I like my case, so I've been pre-ordering cases of 4, and that's my thoughts. I like Pokemon Center ETBs. I have every single Pokemon Center ETB that has been released going all the way back to Chillin' Reign. Chillin' Reign, I actually, believe it or not, made a community post when Chillin' Reign ETBs were released on Pokemon Center. I said, these are special, these are different. And then those were the error ETBs. Remember, they were supposed to be 10 packs inside, and the Chillin' Reign ETBs only had 8 instead. And then as compensation, Pokemon Center sent like the 2-pack blisters to everybody. And then it had like the legendary bird trio on there. It had like the Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos, like the 3 cards on the 2-pack blister. And like that was a very nice way of Pokemon kind of saying to everybody, like, sorry, we messed up. And then everybody had this weird speculation on what if the Chillin' Reign ETBs were going to have reprints, and the reprints would have 10 packs in it, and then the 8-pack ETBs would be weighable and all this stuff. And then we never saw a reprint of those ETBs, and that was just like the end of that conversation. But no, that's my thoughts on Pokemon Center ETBs. I like them. I like them because I think the barrier entry is fair. It's the same to everybody, meaning Pokemon Center, doesn't matter if you have distributor agreements. It doesn't matter if you're tax exempt as a company. Like, you can't buy off Pokemon Center without paying taxes. You can't have a direct distributor agreement from Pokemon Center. You're not getting greater prices. So whenever you buy that Pokemon Center ETB, you're at least on the same level playing field as everybody else, where at least super modern ETB is like that playing field is swayed in probably not your favor. You can get lucky, and you can have an ETB drop really low in price. And, we've seen it happen really recently, actually, like especially some of like the Target Black Friday deals and stuff like that, where prices for these ETBs have dropped way below distributor pricing, or if not below, like even. Again, that's big box retail. So yeah, I guess that argument kind of goes away on things like those. But I just like, but now that's the thing. You have to hope like a Black Friday sale happens where those ETBs are sold by Target for $24, $23. Like you have to hope that happens. Where at least with Pokemon Center, I don't have to hope that that scenario plays out for me in exactly that same situation. So I like them. I wouldn't buy every, like just only be buying those and not buying anything else. But like, I like my 4. See, we got Chugs in the chat. We got the Mexican hipster in the chat. He said, what do you got in that mug, PK? It's not a mug. I've already said in other lives, it's a goblet, guys. So let's see. We got Rattle in the chat. Oreo Cakester. He said he sent in 25 cards thinking he would get UPC upcharge or sorry. He said he sent 25 cards in the PSA thinking he would get upcharged on all of them, and he only got upcharged on 2. So yeah, it's weird. There's no like rhyme or reason on why PSA upcharges some cards and they don't. Like, it's definitely not an electronic system. So if you can take advantage of it and use it for your benefit, like do it, guys. Catchmall Collectibles says, this launch FOMO is what I address when I say calm down. Artists are gonna art every single new release. It's some new art. Some new chase gets people to buy $150 battle styles, $100+ V-Star universe. Yeah. And he's right. Like FOMO in this hobby. And that's the thing too. Like I've seen people comment about FOMO a lot, is people just still to this day, they're so confused by FOMO. They have no way to navigate it because they want the shiniest thing. And if you want the shiniest thing as the opener aspect, do it. The only reason I say do that because that's what you want. And I wish I could sit here and behind the camera and say to everybody like that people weren't buying it to keep it as a sale product play. But they were. And the only reason I know some people were buying those as sale product plays is because they literally told me that's what they were doing. If I didn't literally have people tell me they were picking up some of this stuff because they thought it was going to be a good future investment, picking up some of these booster boxes at like 143 or 144 on Pokemon Center, if I didn't know that those existed, I would have told you like everybody's buying them to open them, but they weren't. So, and I think it's hard too, is everybody wants to do comparisons, and comparisons make sense in this hobby, right? Especially when you look at modern stuff, you want to compare like set to set or release to release, and like you want to compare Shining Fates to Hidden Fates. You want to do it, but at the end of the day, you can't. Just like you can't compare Hidden Fates to Shining Legends, just like you can't compare Shining Legends to Dragon Majesty, just like you can't compare Dragon Majesty to Dragon Vault, just like you can't compare Dragon Vault to Double Crisis. When you go back in time, you look at these stupid specialty sets, like you can't compare them. They're all different, vastly different. It sounds stupid even mentioning Double Crisis with Dragon Vault. It sounds stupid mentioning Dragon Vault in the same sentence as Dragon Majesty. It sounds stupid sounding, like you can't compare them, even though that like from the outside looking in, maybe you would think, but they're not. They're just different. Let's see. So Mert says bulk graders equal less trained graders equal graders who know less about market prices. I don't know, just a thought. I don't think the grader looks at the card and goes, oh, like checks it and like, oh, this needs to be upcharged. Doesn't. I would say that goes back to like, because PSA has their 4 like grading tiers. I guess not grading tiers, grading stages. And then stage 4 is the grading, and then like QA check 1, QA check 2, when they're checking like grades and stuff like that. I think that QA check 1 should be when they pick up your upcharges, but I'm not 100%. But like in my head, I would think that that's when they would check their, for those, where I think the QA check 2, is when they're actually looking at the physical slab itself and making sure it's like properly sonically welded and there's not like a crazy scratch on the case or something in the case, or even though we know that does happen way more than it should, but who knows, even that QA2, I'm sure they just have a huge stack of slabs for your submission and they're just looking at it. They're doing one of these and just as fast as they could take that card off the pile, looking at the quick front and back, and then stacking it up. And the only reason I think that is a possibility, that that's what they're doing, is because I don't know if recently you guys have gotten any PSA submissions back, and the cert numbers are usually in order, meaning like you have cert number ending in 100 to, you have submitted 200 cards and it'll end in 200. And then in your order, you'll have like ending in 100 all the way up to 200. But we haven't seen that lately. I've seen a lot of like the numbers have just been like in crazy different orders and stuff like that. So maybe the guy's just taking your card and just like putting it on the table real quick, and then they're just scooping them up. I have no clue. Maybe one day PSA will do like a behind the scenes kind of thing. I know SGC did a video where they did like a behind the scenes of their grading. It kind of really showed you how small their grading is, but Catchmall Collectible said, graders almost surely wouldn't be tasked with upcharges. You'd think it would be in the PSA. Yeah, he's just saying like the auction prices and stuff, because that's the thing. PSA does have like comparables. When you go check a certain number of a card, it's going to tell you how many of those cards have been graded, how many cards are graded higher, and then you could also look at recent auction prices. So you think that would all be integrated? But yeah, there's no way any of that's integrated in PSA. So Catchmall Collectible said, I made that grade play too. Even graded coins and sold tens for hundreds of dollars. Yeah. Garen says, PK, grading a base Mew, Dan sending 5K cards. Am I looking at Radiant? Oh, and he says, and I'm looking at Radiant EV. LL. Well, shit. Well, listen, even Radiant EVs are decent plays. I don't know really what the market's handling for those, but you send those babies at $15. Who knows? I'm sure the 10s are selling for nice premiums. Chug said, do you think pull rates decrease between print runs, or are people just desensitized once they see the set over and over and feel like there are less hits? It doesn't make sense why they would change print runs. I know that's like a pretty hot debated conversation within this hobby of like whether or not print runs have different pull rates. Like, I'm leaning towards maybe, but now this is the thing too, is we're starting to kind of see that different printing facilities seem to be printing or stacking hits in different products. And we're now getting to the point where we're actually seeing this in a relatively like decent sample size. You know, PokeRev showed it on one of his streams when I think he was opening up Silver Tempest, the most recent set. He opened up a ton of booster boxes and we're getting the same hits over and over and over again. And there was like a handful of hits that he just could not get. And as soon as he started cracking into ETBs, he instantly started getting those hits. So it is possible that these printing facilities are seeding things differently or seeding different hits from different printing facilities. I don't know. This is super speculative, just like more conversation points than anything else, but maybe, maybe. I mean, when you go, I mean, there's definitely been cards that have been left out of sets. You can go back in time and look at a lot of cards that were just like left out of sets and, you know, didn't get included till later. Let's see. I see Pokemon Classics in the chat. If anybody just joined now, again, a link to Pokemon Classics' most recent video is in the description of this video. I recommend you guys going and checking that out. Great video, by the way. Yeah. Catch 'em all collectible said, given the end consumers money to PSA. Yeah, right. So Basic Trainer is trolling in the chat right now. He says, I was buying Moon Browns at 1550 knowing they would go to the moon. I know Basic Trainer was not buying Moon Browns, but Basic Trainer was like everyone else. He was super excited about watching that. And I want to say that there was probably a window of time, or it may still be going on, where Basic Trainer was tracking every single Moonbryon sale that was happening. So Retro says, So we see Retrospecs in the chat. Retro's a good guy. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch the live, I recently had Retrospecs on the channel. I would definitely recommend you guys going and checking that one out. But Retro says, biggest opportunity cost is holding anything. If you're holding, you're probably losing money. There's a, oh no. No, what just happened? Oh, when did this, I just missed an auction. Oh, it ended at 9:49. I missed it by 8 minutes. I swear I thought this auction was ending at 10 o'clock. I didn't know it was ending at a random time. Because when I was talking to you guys, it reminded me of something, but TCA Gaming in his most recent auction block had a TV reporter from EX Dragon in reverse hollow and a PSA 6. And it sold for $78.88. I want to cry. Oh my God. I wanted that card. It looked super clean too. I couldn't see what was wrong with it, why it was a 6. But when I was talking about cards that it just ended. Oh well. That was a great price for that card. Oh, I'm bummed out. Especially talking about a niche thing. Oh, I missed it by freaking 10 minutes. I thought it ended at 10. I've been looking down at my clock on my computer waiting. I was going to go buy it. Oh my God. Oh well. If anybody has a PSA 6 TV reporter versatile from EX Dragon, do me a favor. Message me. I'll gladly give you $80 for that card right now, especially if it's as clean as that one was. So Phil said, why is the BGS 10 Moonbryon selling at such a premium? Such a premium is right. I think I saw a sale for like $7,000. I don't know why. I mean, I do and I don't. I get the BGS premium, like I get it. Like we've seen it on high-end cards, but it's so subjective, especially like BGS's grading scales. Like we've seen so many people submit returns to BGS and like get drastically different grades, especially cards with subgrades, where like centering goes from a 10 to a 9, or corners go from a 9 to a 10. Literally, like the corners get better. They go from having enough corner issues to bump down a full grade and then get bumped back up to a 10. So I don't know. I think one of the problems is BGS is just a barrier of entry for grading. Now, even with that Moonbryon, I don't know like black label rates for a lot of modern cards, but I do know what the black label rate is for the Moonbryon. It's a 5%. So if you had 100 of those Moonbryons, you send them to BGS, 5 out of those 100 is going to hit that black label. I don't get it. I never understood the black label premium. I'll never understand it. It's so subjective at the end of the day. Black labels, it's not for me. I think it's cool. Like it adds like something to it, but black labels they're not for me. There are black label collectors out there, and I get it. You want the best of the best. You want the premium, even if that grade might not be reproducible, meaning if you cracked a black label, which nobody's ever going to crack a black label, but let's say you did in comparison or in hypothetical, it's never going to probably regrade back to that black label 10. It will always grade lower. And nobody will ever say that it's because like BGS was wrong. They're just always going to say to you that, well, the reason it's grading low is you must have damaged it when you cracked out of the slab. Well, they'll give you one of those like BS responses, but you'll probably never be able to recreate a black label. So because I can never recreate something, it's just not for me. Shadowless Jack said, typically BGS 10s are valued over PSA 10, of course. Anything can happen at any time, but generally speaking, yeah. Basic Trainer saying Pokemon sealed toys. Shadowless Jack says, depends on who's buying and if they even like or collect BGS in the first place, Yeah, I mean, the thing about BGS is their grading scales are relatively consistent at high grades, but at like the lower grades, it gets anything lower than a 9, it gets pretty wonky, Like I personally I've showed it on the channel before. I have a Raichu base set first edition in a BGS 8. I love to crack that card and submit it to PSA. The only problem is I don't know if it would hit the 8 at PSA, and I don't want to take a BGS 8 first edition Raichu and then cross grade it to PSA. I mean, I could do minimum grades and cross grade in slab, but I hate doing that to begin with because I think it's just wasted money at that point. I feel if I'm going to cross grade a card, I'm always cracking it out of the slab and sending it. But I want to take a Raichu first edition base in an 8 and send it to PSA and get like a 6 or a 7. Like, I don't want to do that. So I know from personal experience that those lower grades are maybe a little bit wonkier, but then I could be wrong. Maybe PSA would give it an 8, or maybe the grader was having a really good day and they give it a 9, which I find that to be pretty unlikely, but you never know. So Catch 'em All Collectible says we need an in with Millennium Print Group so they can tell us what sets they're printing more of each week. Yeah, the crazy thing is that's probably not that hard to do. I wouldn't think that's impossible. Mason's saying, screw it, we hate everyone, damn Pokemon. John Doe said, $27 Brilliant Stars ETB is available right now. I hear they're out of stock at distribution as well. We'll see though. Yeah, and that's a weird thing. Like $27 Brilliant Stars ETBs. There's a lot of people out there that exist who probably have ETB collections and bought Brilliant Stars ETBs at $39.99. There's probably a lot of those people. And then there's probably even more of those people bought them at Walmart because now Walmart is $44.99. Walmart's no longer $39.99. At least the Walmarts close to me are no longer $39.99. So now you probably have a lot of people that bought Brilliant Stars ETBs at $44.99. And now that they're selling at $27, like there's not a lot of opportunity cost in buying something for $45 and now having it worth $27. Now, Brilliant Star ETB, like you just mentioned, it's out of stock at distribution. I have no way to confirm nor deny that, but assuming that is true, that they are out of stock at distribution, yeah, it's definitely possible that $27 is the floor for Brilliant Stars. So now you're going to have two people with two different opportunity costs. You got the one guy that paid $45, the other guy that paid $27. So if that thing goes back up to $45, the guy who bought it at $27 is sitting pretty nice. The guy that bought it at $45 and it made it back up to $45, maybe on paper he's broken even because, you know, factor in eBay fees or shipping or depending on how he sells, unless he does like a local cash trade, which whatever. Like, what's the opportunity cost of that ETB for that person opposed to the opportunity cost of the person that bought it at 27? And sure, things always look nice on paper when you buy it at the lowest of lows. It's just like the guy that bought the first edition Charizard for $50, graded it in a 10, made that card worth $1,000, and then fast forward 20 years later, that card's worth $240,000. Sure, the opportunity cost is there for that guy. Like, it's hard to say. So let's see. We got Think Forward said Tenso account equals shipping is money. He's right. He just paid $100 in shipping for the Precious Collection box. So you're right. That is something I should mention. If you do get a Tenso account, be prepared to spend a lot of money on shipping. And especially on top, he said he spent $100. If you want that package to come to you like super fast, be ready to spend even more money. And even if you want that package to come to you relatively fast, which could be like a month, like be prepared to spend a lot of money. Yes, that is definitely a extremely important thing that he just brought up, that Tenso shipping is very expensive. But, and thank you for talking the Precious Collection box. But if you want to get into that route and you want to start buying these high end, even though he spent $100 to ship that Precious Collection box, he's still doing fine. But he had the foresight to have a Tenso account already ready, bought that thing for however much it was selling for, like a little bit less than $100, shipped it to him for so he's all into that for $200. That's how you need to do it. But he's right. They are extremely expensive. So Think Forward said, there was actually 2 waves of Precious Collection. Can't wait for his other box to show up. So yeah, it seems like he's already doubling up. And that's my recommendation to people. If you want to get into the Japanese route and you want to start going after these specialty collection boxes, do it. Okay. The old card shop said, why are people FOMOing into V-Star Universe when it will be $50 a box next month and we will have the English equivalent? He's right. I don't know if it will hit $50, but V-Star Universe is going to go down in price. I would say, I don't even know what like the current prices are, but there's definitely a lot of people where FOMO into V-Star Universe, like I want to say at like 120 a box. I don't get it. Now, there's a thing too. That V-Star Universe, right now, I think it's not an entry point for me. I'm not really a Japanese collector to begin with. I already told you guys, I do have Japanese sealed product. I don't like to speak about Japanese product with any kind of like certainty because I'm not invested enough in it. I don't have enough plays in it. Some of the stuff I have like box, not boxes, box, like one booster box. So put that into perspective how I do my Japanese play. Like I have box, meaning I'm probably not going to even sell it because if I sell it, it's no longer part of my collection, which again, I don't even really collect Japanese booster boxes, so it really goes out. But yeah, a product like that definitely is going down in value in the near term, especially the graded card market is going to go down in the future. But right now, there are a lot of plays. If you are opening, V-Star Universe and you are doing that ultimate game of hot potato and you're sending these cards out and you're getting them graded with Japanese print quality and everything like that, you flip those, you get them onto the market right away. I bet you there are people, and that's the thing too, is you buy V-Star Universe, you buy it as a sealed product play, you buy it at $100, you hope that box goes up to $300. I personally know somebody who cracked open a V-Star Universe box, and after grading and after their fees and everything, they're going to make $200 easily, $200 to $300. So now this is the thing too. It also happened to be that they pulled, some of the secret rares, and that is always going to like sway those numbers a little bit. The fact that they were able to pull like, one of the better cards in the entire set, one of the most expensive cards. So it's definitely going to sway that. But their money, their opportunity cost by what they're doing, cracking that open, flipping, grading, being first to market, they're doing pretty good. Now, what does that same play look like 5 years from now? Somebody cracks open that same box, grades all those cards. Usually what happens is you'll have your graded price or your sealed product route that will hold the premium in the future, but your single price is going to retrace super hard. We see that all the time, especially like English Modern, Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates ETBs still selling around $150. The graded prices of Hidden Fates cards are in the dumpster, but that doesn't change the fact that right at release, in 2019, buy Hidden Fates, you crack it open, grade all those cards, get the first to market, especially some of the, baby shinings, get super lucky, get the Charizard, stuff like that. Those cards, right at release, the play wasn't graded. So the market changes. So you had a ton of EV when that product was was immediately released. As soon as you opened it, cracked it, grade those cards. Given enough time, the sealed product for that has gone up. Well, not really. I mean, Hidden Fates have seen our reprints, right? So, I mean, but still, Hidden Fates ETB is still, selling between like 120 and 150. But now you open that same ETB, grade those cards, you lose a ton of money. And that's where it comes down to. The opportunity cost is you got to constantly be just moving, changing, adapting to the market. Once the plays dry up, like don't continue going after those plays if they're not there. Just move on to the next thing. At least if you're going that route, like don't get too like, you got to like make one play when you're making it. You just got to constantly be adapting, constantly be moving. Make the opportunity cost worth it for you. So the old card shop said, I'm about 10 times more excited for Crown Zenith because he can actually buy it / read it. I think old card shop is super excited for Crown Zenith because he's going to be able to open it on a Whatnot stream. And I think Crown Zenith is going to be, people are going to be foaming at their mouths for something like that. They're like, there it is. Now this is different. Old card shop definitely has his selling platform, which he has now built up over the course of years, and he has all his followers on Whatnot and stuff like that, and people and everything that goes into that. But like his opportunity cost in that is not for him to keep that as a sealed product play. Even if that thing goes up in 2x's in the next 3 years, like he's going to 2x that ETB by opening it up on a Whatnot stream. So it also boils down to is like, how are you able to sell stuff? Are you selling everything on eBay, selling on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist? You know, as Rudy would say, your back doors or your Silk Roads. Like, how are you selling this stuff? Like, do you have a name? Are you selling it? Do you have like a buyer pool? You know, there's some people, especially like some of this Japanese product, do like their Instagram live streams and their YouTube live streams and stuff like this, and they were already pre-sold all those packs. So all the expected value for the opportunity cost for them, they've already like reached it, especially when it comes to open up Japanese product live, you know, on Instagram and stuff. Opportunity cost is there for them. So Think Forward said, opportunity cost. All right, guys, I'm heading to Japan in 1 week. I can middleman for everyone Japanese product. Think Forward, if you think it's that easy to just go to Japan and pick up a bunch of Japanese product, I think you're going to be in for a little bit of a rude awakening. The Japanese market is as crazy hot as it's ever been. Let's see. Basic Trainer says, you never go broke taking profits. And I've actually said that on my channel before. There has never been a single person in history who ever went broke taking profits. Never. So Mason Berry said, PK is an expert rambler. Dude's barely taken a breath for like 15 minutes. Oh, I don't know if that's a compliment and kind of a shot at me. Old Card Shop said, a rambling man. Yeah. Yeah, the only time I stop talking is when I'm down reading the chat trying to figure out what's going on. No, it's just I'm passionate. And you know, when it comes out as rambling, it's a lot of it is just I'm trying to talk out things in my head and trying to like you're gonna have internal dialogue all the time, and it's working your way through things. And you know, when you talk about opportunity cost in Pokemon, people are gonna make it seem like it's this easy, like buy this, don't buy this, buy this, don't buy this. It's not like this. What I'm telling everybody out there is I buy a little bit of everything and I just figure out what's going to be like the best play. Or I shouldn't say I buy everything. And that's the thing about Pokemon too, is I should actually really explain what I mean by that is I do not buy everything. There's a lot of products in Pokemon that I just skip. And that's going to be something a lot of people are going to like, oh my God, their ears are bleeding right now. What do you mean? There's a product you don't buy in Pokemon? You don't buy everything? No. I like to buy products that I think are the good products, which sounds crazy to people, but it's not crazy. There are good products. There are bad products. All products are not created equal in this hobby. All cards are not created equal in this hobby. All grades are not created, all grading companies, all sealed products are not created equal. There's ebbs and flows of this market. Everything is not created equal. Now, I like to buy a little bit of everything just because I am, like I told you, a collector at heart, but let's see. Andrew Lopez says, why do you feel that way when McDonald's charges you $4 for 25 cents worth of potatoes? Oh, I think he's talking to somebody. Let's see. Oh, I just skipped all the way to the bottom. Oh God. Why does it do that? Sorry guys. Sometimes like my chat just skips all the way to the bottom. Let's see. Pokemon Classics is talking. The old card shop said ETBs are the worst. So yeah, somebody said reprints aside, Magic has had booster boxes rise in value every time for 30 years and Pokemon now for 25. The reprints affect the short-term market, but the long-term things rise. Yeah, I guess long-term is just subjective. What do you mean by long-term? I've never met anybody that said that that's not true. Everyone agrees with that. I think the big thing is when you look at that, what is long term, it all comes down to two things: distribution. It's not only when stuff's out of print, is when is it out of distribution? Shit could be out of print and still be super cheap as long as it's available at distribution. That is like the big caveat. So yeah, that's the thing. Let's see. Felipe said, if a recession hit us, how much would grading prices maybe decrease? Did they go down significantly last time around? I don't think grading prices are really going to be affected by inflation so much or recession. It's just going to really depend on demand. And I think we're moving into this weird time where when you talk about grading prices of cards, is people are just going to really have the conversation of how much can these grading card companies grade at a certain time, but how many like people have they hired? You know, if PSA realizes that they have all these people they've recently hired when they ramped up, because we know it, PSA has ramped up. Their numbers have proved it. Their Instagram account has proved it. Like PSA is ramped up to a crazy amount. They're going to have to keep these guys busy, and they can't just have them sitting around not grading anything. So, there comes a point when grading fees get low enough where PSA is just all about turning and burning stuff. So, let's see. Poke Collectibles, yeah, talking the Pokemon Classic, said, interested to know if you got into modern at all. I feel like the combo is mostly always modern and not so much vintage. Old Card Shop said Ancient Mew base set and evolutions and hidden fates were printed to the ground. Oh, talking to Ancient Mew. I thought he was talking about Ancient Mew, like literally the movie promo, because that was also printed to the ground. And I always laugh. I said there will never come a day when Ancient Mews will not be available on the market. You could quote me on that. To the day I die, to the day we all die, there will never be a day that there will not be an Ancient Mew available for sale on some sort of selling platform. Even if in the future, when we're 90 years old and eBay is no longer a thing and there's a new way to sell stuff, there will be Ancient Mews available from now until forever. It will never go away. Ancient Mew is a amazing card when you look at the history. I think you could probably go buy a sealed one right now for like between 20 and 25 bucks. And if you don't own a sealed Ancient Mew, what are you waiting for? You had 20 years to get one. Just might as well go. You missed your boat for the $7 sealed ones. You missed your boat on the 10, the 15. Now you're at the $20. Get yourself your $20 sealed Ancient Mew, like you and every other person. Ancient Mews are funny though. Surprisingly hard to grade in 10s though. People don't talk about like how incredibly hard they are to grade in 10s for how many are actually out there. And then Ancient Mews are funny too, because Ancient Mews has 5 different print runs. You have your English versions and your Nintendo misspelled errors and the corrected version, the Japanese versions and the Japanese corrected Ancient Mew and the Japanese corrected Ancient Mew. If you guys have any of those sitting at home, that's the money right there, especially if you have like a really minty Japanese corrected Ancient Mew. Those are pretty rare. Let's see. Old Card Shop says, I buy product to scalp and the secondary market for more than just my distributor, and I would not touch Pokemon Center ETBs with a 69-foot pole. I like myself some Pokemon Center ETBs way better than I like just regular ETBs. That's just my personal opinion. Take it for what it's worth. The only thing about Pokemon Center ETBs is a lot of them exist. If you want Pokemon Center ETBs to like go up in value, they can no longer be available on Pokemon Center. Surprise. Everybody out there must be like shocked Pikachu face. But no, if you want your Pokemon Center ETBs to go up in value, they just cannot be available at Pokemon Center. So sorry if I've hurt people's feelings by telling them that information. Let's see. Zard Hunt says, what were your last 3 plays? Asking me? I don't know if some of them I'm still waiting to come in the mail. Let's see. I've already like kind of talked about some of them. We'll circle back to those because some of my last 3 plays are still in the purchases. Yeah, they're still in. Well, all right, I'll do this one. I'll tell you. So, all right. I don't know if I want to. Okay, I just tell you my last 2 purchase. I don't even know if I want to tell you one of them because one of the 2 is I bought more special delivery Charizard codes. I'll tell you that much. And the reason I bought more special delivery Charizard codes is because I ran out and we're getting to the end of the year. So right now it appears what Pokemon Center has said that they're no longer accepting Charizard codes after 12/31. If you guys are just sitting around not doing, I call it like it's like your daily duty or your every 8-day duty to get your special delivery Charizard. Everyone should be doing that. If you have not sent a package to your mom's house, to your sister's house, to your brother's house, to your in-laws' house, to your best friend's house, to your other best friend's house, to the person who's you don't talk to that often, but you still ask them if you could send them stuff. If you haven't sent a package to all those people's houses using your special delivery Charizard codes, probably making a long-term mistake. When we talk about opportunity cost, that is a card that has opportunity cost. It still exists for like the next month. Please do that. The codes now, my most recent batch of codes, I paid less than $5 per code. You go, you buy your 1 3-pack blister, your 2 single-pack blisters. You're in it for a little over $20, free shipping. You input your code. For whatever reason, the Christmas ornaments are still popping up every time you do that little enjoy Pokemon. Don't let this pass, please. Don't. It's free. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a free card. I guess it costs you $5. I just told you got to pay a little less than $5 on eBay. Don't let this one pass. It's just free money right now. There's things in this hobby that are just, I don't know why they do it. They just hand it to you. They're like, here you go, take it. I mean, I'm seeing sealed ones still to this day sell for like $40. I just told you you only have to spend $5 to get it. And then $20 on Pokemon Center. And then you could keep all the shit that you keep your cards, keep your blisters, and then you just sell the card. It's free. It's free money right now. Maybe it will change, but I have a feeling come January 1st, when they're no longer available at Pokemon Center, probably just going to keep going up. It doesn't matter if they go up. It doesn't matter. Like, there's opportunity cost there. So you asked me my last 3 plays. That was one of the 2. I don't know if I want to tell you the other one. I'll give you a hint. 001/SV/P. That's my hint for my other most recent sale. But I haven't even had those delivered to me yet. So I'm probably gonna shoot myself in the foot by telling you guys those. But and the secret is bulk. When you're gonna do modern plays, bulk. Buy in bulk. Buy in bulk, buy in bulk, buy in bulk. Especially if you're going for the 10 chase, buy in bulk. Only if the 10 premium is strong enough. Yeah, we could like have conversation forever. So the old card shop says, as someone who opens thousands of each set from all products, there are no better pull rates. I don't know who he's talking about. Let's see. Oh, people are saying they just watch PK's heartbreak in real time. I guess I got to the point in the chat where everybody saw that I didn't understand what time an auction was ending. And the crazy thing was I looked at that card before this live because I knew TCA was selling it. And I almost reached out to TCA like via text and just said, hey man, can you look at this card? But I didn't want to do that because he's a very busy man. He's with his family. I don't want him to have to like stop what he's doing to like try to do me a favor by looking at that card. But man, it was out there. I wanted it. PSA 6. See, that's the thing. Some people say like, What do you think of PSA 10s? I like PSA 10s. People are like, what do you think of PSA 6s? I don't like PSA 6s, but there are some cards I like in PSA 6. If you want to give me your Trophy Kangaskhan in a PSA 6, I will grudgingly accept. Old Card Shop said, being upset about missing a PSA 6 is peak hobby engagement. Yeah. Let's see. Brad said, I agree with you, PK, on black labels. They don't mean any more to him than BGS gold label 10s or CGC 10s. Yeah. The weird thing too is I don't know if you guys follow Rock Pokemon. Rock Pokemon's been on my channel. It has a great channel. Rock Pokemon's one of my favorite people in this hobby. Somebody I've met now on multiple occasions. But he did a cool little cross grading video. He sent a bunch of CGC Perfect 10s to Beckett for a lot of, I want to say, Weiss cards, because Weiss cards in Beckett slabs hold a much stronger premium than, say, CGC. And he didn't even do like minimum grades or anything. He just, I think maybe he did minimum like 9.5 grades. But all his CGC Perfect 10s, he did not have one single CGC Perfect 10 cross grade to a Beckett black label. He had like a small handful of them cross grade to pristine 10s at Beckett, so the gold labels, and then all the rest cross graded to 9.5s. So even between the grading card companies like the CGC Perfects and the Beckett Perfects, but at the end of the day, I bet you if he cracked all those cards out, sent them all again to Beckett, you'd probably get like different grades again. So it's hard to say. So look, Old Card Shop says, what even is a perfect card? Is perfection even attainable or even desired? Hard to say. I don't know. Like, I don't know what like truly perfect is. So like truly perfect to me would be 80x magnification or 60x magnification. So like when you're looking under it, you're looking at ink dots. When you're looking at the rosacea pattern of how it was printed at the printing facility, looking at corners to make sure there is absolutely no shred of shred of whitening whatsoever. When you're looking at the corners of the cards under 60 to 80 magnification, and you can see that carbon layer in between the cards, and making sure that the cuts are perfectly even and not frayed, like that to me would be the definition of like the ultimate perfect card. Why would you need to own that though? You wouldn't. Like, you don't need that. That's why people always say, well, I tell everyone, I like PSA 10s. I like PSA 10s for grading with PSA because they're at least attainable. Like, I feel when I send cards to PSA, I have a high likelihood of getting 10s. And everyone says, well, 10s aren't perfect. And it's like, well, no, PSA 10s are not perfect, but you could just go on the PSA website and look at their grading scales. There, it's written there. You could go there, read it, see exactly how that grade was determined. And if you go to the Gem Mint 10, there can be some very, very small minor flaws on a PSA 10. And people are like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, like PSA advertises on their website. Just go looking at their grading scales. It doesn't have to be a perfect card, absolutely, to be a PSA 10. And then people are like, oh, PSA gives everything a 10. It's like, yeah, cool. Gives everything a 10. Trust me, they give everything a 10 until you want them to give something a 10. Then they don't give it a 10. I promise you that. Yeah. So Old Card Shop has said finding the right buyer sometimes can be exhausting. Selling a normal PSA 10 do much more liquid. Yeah. And some of the things about like a PSA 10 that I like personally is PSA 10 is going to be whatever the highest of the market is. Whatever the market or the hobby as in general is valuing a certain card at a given point and a timeline of the hobby, the PSA 10 is going to sell for the premium. Now, is that premium going to be the same as it will be in 5 years or 10 years from now? Who knows? But at least in the moment when you're looking to liquidate that card, it's going to give you your highest realized price of any other grade. And for that reason, I like the 10s. And not only will it give you the highest, value, more likely than not, it's going to give you the highest value of all other grading card companies. That's why it's very enticing for me. And PSA 10s are super liquid. I've talked about it recently. Some of my Like most successful plays I've done in very recent times have been graded super modern cards, full art trainers, stuff like that. Things that I'm picking up, some of these cards like $3 to $4 raw, grading them in 9s, back to breaking even. 10s, huge premiums. People don't like to hear that too. People always think like breaking even sometimes is not good. Like, it's that opportunity cost. Like you broke even. I'm telling you, breaking even on grading cards, there's no effort required. The effort required to take a card. Let's see if I can find a card. Take a card, to take it out, to take that card, take the card, take your penny sleeve, put it in the penny sleeve. You have your card saver 1. Take that card, put it in a card saver 1. Type it in the PSA, put it in a flat rate box, ship the PSA. Then it comes back to you. Take that same card out, take a photo on your phone. Depending if you send it on the $50 or $100 tier, you could just go on PSA, copy those photos. But let's say you don't. Take your photo, list it on eBay, done. Ship it out, sold, done. Level of effort, minimal. And that's why me personally, when I do plays recently, I like to have this card, but then have 30 other of them. So then you go to the PSA, you type in the card, you type in the year, you type in Pokemon, you type in, your set name, and then you type in quantity 31. And it's even that much easy. And then that's why you just send them all out. It's super easy. Level of effort required is almost nothing. So Dylan said, PK, you get a weird amount of 8s on your PSA $15 special. My 8s had a wide range of conditions where my grade. So I only had one submission. It was a very small $18 submission. It was like I want to tell you the wrong number. I think it was like 18 cards or something. It was I don't know. It was a small amount though. It wasn't a huge return, but I only had like one of my submissions where I got like pretty crappy grades. But I wouldn't say I got a lot of 8s, but I got a lot of 9s and not a lot of 10s. I think I only got like 110 out of that whole submission, and a lot of it were like Japanese EX cards and stuff like that. So cards that are usually grade pretty easy. And that was the only submission that I had out of all my bulk submissions that I thought it was a little fishy, but it's just a matter of just getting those cards out. Opportunity cost. Turning and burning. So let's see. Trying to make it to the bottom chat. I think I'm getting there. No, I'm not even close to the bottom. You guys are talking up a storm tonight. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom real quick. So I'm just going to real quick. I got the last question of the night. Athletes and Antique said, at Poke Knowledge Cards, what is your white whale in the hobby? Is there a card or item that you can attain that would cause you to sit back and feel like you made it? Yeah. If I ever get the pre-release Raichu in my hands, I'll made it. I will feel I made it. And then I will feel I've made it because I will then have to debate that card every single chance I get, tell everybody that it is a real card, and get all the haters, all the pre-release Raichu haters come at me. I bring them. I just be like, yum, 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 yum. Eat them all up. Just come on, bring it on. I don't fucking care. Pre-release Raichu is a real thing. That will be my grail of grails. That will be when I sit back and be like, I made it. It'd have to have some provenance to it, something that I could really put my finger on and say that this is a real pre-release Raichu. This has a real release. This has a real back, a real record to it, and like bring on the haters. Tell me it's not a real card. But I think that would be my white whale. So I appreciate you guys. As always, I don't ever ask much from you. In fact, I don't really ask anything from you. All I ever ask you to do is do me 2 things. 1, hit that like button. Hit the like button. It helps me out a lot. Pushes this video out to a lot of other people through the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to this channel and you haven't hit that subscribe button, but yet you made it to the end of an almost 2-hour live, hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification so when I do go live, you'll know when I go live. With that said, appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.